So this is, now obviously this struck you as something significant because you went to the expense of putting it on canvas. So what else holds special significance for this this site, or is it just an interesting?
Well, it's very unique. You know, looks like a man-made structure here. You have the ziggurat and you have the tower. So this is a very impressive picture right here. A lot of people get this photo. But here is a picture again of the ziggurat standing all alone there. And then next, this is very impressive. These are windows. You see a square windows going horizontally across here. Very striking to see this in the sides of the formations.
Even if someone could argue that these are not walls, what in the world are square holes doing in the side of them?
Right, these are all squares, every one of them there going across horizontally. And here's a little closer shot.
Wow.
Yeah, it's stunning to see this. You don't see that, you know, in nature, something like this. Very impressive. And this, again, this is in ash.
And even afterward, why would people come to this site and carve things on the side?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense
And this
either.
is high up. This is not down low. This is up high. It's hard to get to. Now, on the edge of most of the cities were a sphinx shape. And here we see a sphinx at the edge of Gomorrah. Perhaps it was designed to protect the city, but it did a poor job that day, I think.
Now, if you saw that at just one location, you might say, well, like Golgotha, the place of the skull where Christ was crucified, there is a natural rock formation there that looks like a face. One could argue this, but there's similar sphinxes at each one of the cities.
Yeah, I've heard that they're in each of the cities, yes. Now here's another. I'm standing by it here to get a size perspective, and you can see the nice sphinx design to it. Of course, after 3,500 years, it has eroded away, but you can still see some type of design here. So, and next, our friend Jason was climbing up the remains, trying to get to a large chunk of brimstone in the side of the remains. When you see a large chunk, it's nice to try to go after it. And he was able to climb up there and retrieve this large piece of brimstone.
And what he's walking in there, you could see it was not sand, it was ash.
Yes.
Something had burned there.
Loose material, right. And then here's another image of the brimstone that I found. It has like a burned ring around it. In the center of the cluster there on the center right is some unconsumed sulfur.
Okay.
So again, the burn ring, and inside you have the sulfur.
Now we have a box here in front of us that we'll be going through at some point, I'm assuming.
Yes.
And we'll be able to show you at home what we are looking at here, because all of these things that Kevin is talking about, we're going to see up close and personal.
Yes.
So stay tuned for that. It's coming up.
Yeah. And so here is a piece of brimstone inside a hardened shell. Again, when the brimstone's on fire, the outside of it is liquid. When it cools down, it turns into hardened crystals. And that's what we have there, are some hardened crystals around that.
Now, how hard is it to open? You had your knife in there.
It's very, very stiff. It's very hardened. And so here is a piece without the hardened shell on the outside of it. There was some underneath it, but that's another piece of brimstone.
Now, that's the piece that is very pure sulfur that is found nowhere else on Earth, correct?
That's right. This sulfur is 95% pure sulfur. It's a monoclinic form of sulfur. Most sulfur you find naturally is the rhombic type, that it's a more yellow color, but it's only 50% sulfur. So there's a big difference. So God rained down a unique type of sulfur to do this work. And so he left behind a marker for us to see that, you know, these sites are real. So in one of our trips here, there's this large cluster here on this large rock over here, or actually a piece of ash, and I'll show you a close-up of it. Here's the top of it. Now, what we're seeing on top of this, all of this on top of it are the hardened crystals. So there were hundreds of pieces of brimstone underneath this burning. It turned into a big pool of liquid. And when that big pool of liquid is about 6 feet long or so, when that pool of liquid cooled down, it left these crystals on top of it. On top there, the upper part of the photo, are the crystals. In the center across here horizontally is the unconsumed sulfur or brimstone.
That white section there.
That white section, yeah. So very, very impressive find. Again, on top of the crystals, you see the brimstone in the center going horizontally. Very impressive find. Here's another image of it. You see the brimstone sticking out, the crystals on top. I mean, you're not going to find this anywhere else on Earth. You know, this is totally unique.
So does the government of Israel allow people to go in and take sulfur? They don't mind?
They do. You know, the area is so large, you know, there's no limit as far as I know.
Let the whole earth be warned. Take yourself
Yes.
home a piece of brimstone
Yes.
and don't do this.
Right. And so here is a close-up of some of the layers. Sometimes there's layering effect. In the background was the Sphinx shape we saw earlier.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, with the Dead Sea in the background. And so here's a close-up of another piece of brimstone in the formations that we opened up. You can see the unconsumed sulfur inside.
How many times have you been to this particular site?
Well, I made 3 trips over there to Israel, but I went to the site, you know, numerous times while there, many hours. It's very impressive. Originally, I was not real impressed with the Sodom and Gomorrah stuff, but once you go out there yourself and start seeing this firsthand, it's very impressive to see it come to life in front of you.
Now, some of these are in vertical. They're basically shot into the sides of the walls. Or some of them are found in vertical.
Yeah, they're in, you know,
walls.
various locations, and some people have. Well, I think Ron Wyatt thought they may have originally been about a foot in diameter originally, and then burned down to the smaller size. And here's a 90-degree angle, sort of like a window in the side of the formations. Pretty impressive. Here is another Sphinx. Now this one's in Gomorrah again. In the background is a ziggurat shape. So Sphinx, ziggurat. In Egypt you have a Sphinx pyramid, you know, near each other. But this is on a raised area, sort of like a high place. Here's a close-up of the Sphinx from another angle.
Oh, there you can see it. You can see the shape.
Yes.
It's definitely something man-made there.
Right, and this is again an elevated area for worship. There it is again, and the background is Masada. And this is about 40 feet long. This is a large Sphinx shape here. Very impressive. And then near it, we saw in the distance, was this ziggurat.
And those, you know, it should be just outcroppings like that. Again, more evidence that there's something different here. This was specifically made here. This was intentional.
And then here, this was taken down at the south end of the Dead Sea is Zoar. Zoar was later consumed. And it has kind of a square. If you see the light ash there, this has kind of a square shape, the white ash there.
So like today, the downtown core areas of most cities are grids, because that's where they start, and then the sprawl begins.
And they branch out, lose its square shape, Here's another image in Zoar of a square image in the background.
So this is drone footage. What are we seeing here?
Yes, so here we're looking down on the formations, and then I'm panning up.
Oh, wow, look at that.
Yeah, and you can see across the city there.
Now this city, which city is this one?
This would be considered Gomorrah.
Okay.
The Bible gives the cities in order, creating the Canaanite border, and this would be the 3rd city that's mentioned, starting from the south and going up.
So this is much larger than Zoar. This is huge.
Yes, right, this is huge. Sodom and Gomorrah were the 2 largest. That's why a lot of times you hear them say Sodom and Gomorrah, and they don't mention the other cities because they were smaller. But in the distance is the Dead Sea.
And this is all city, or some of this the hillside surrounding?
This would be all city here that we're looking at. Previously we did see Masada in the background, but at this point this would be all city.
How tall are the walls here? I mean, at estimation, what were the heights of these buildings?
About 30 feet, a lot of them. It's quite large.
And what are we seeing there? Is that a street or where the river runs?
A lot of these would be streets. And of course, there has been some erosion since the time. And there's the base of Masada in the background.
Now some of these, like on the right-hand side there, you can see that one little area on the second level, as it were.
Yes.
That is very right angled.
Right,
That
right.
looks
And far
definitely-
right here, yes,
Yeah, you can't deny that that was something man-made.
Yes.
And what are we seeing here as we zoom in over this area?
These are more of the remains here. You can see, again, the flat wall on the right here, right center. It's almost buried.
And that's all that's all the crystallization on top and brimstone underneath, I would assume.
Some of it would be. Most of this is just loose ash.
Okay.
Yeah.
But again, ash, not dirt.
Right, right.
This did happen here.
Yes.
So why do you think it is that archaeologists still dispute that these are the cities and they claim that they were swallowed up into the Dead Sea?
I don't understand. I mean, the evidence here is so clear. It's very interesting.
Wow, look at that. So you've gone out here several times. You bring people with you, or do you explore on your own?
Well, it's usually just friends, I bring out there to take a look.
Okay.
But very exciting to see.
Now,
It's also sad. I mean, you got to
Yeah.
realize that there were, perhaps 200,000 people, died here in Gomorrah.
Now you had mentioned a few minutes ago about bones, human
Yes.
bones.
Yes.
Do we want to get into that before we run out of time?
We
here?
can. We can
Okay.
show what we have here in the display box that I brought. But in the top left, you can see the naturally occurring rhombic sulfur.
And that's found elsewhere in the
And
world.
elsewhere, yes, it's just
Okay.
50% sulfur. On the left side, we see two pieces of brimstone, one in the hardened shell, the other one, the bottom left, is out of the shell. And then in the top center, we see something that looks melted, a melted substance. In the bottom center, we can see cremated bone. Dr. Leonard Moeller, in his book, The Exodus Case, he has an image of a pelvic bone and vertebrae that he found out there.
This is the same Leonard Moeller who was on Michael Rood's
Yes.
Red Sea crossing.
That's
he was the
right.
captain of the boat, as it were.
Yes. And then on the right side here, we have some of the consumed brimstone where it turned into a liquid. And when it cooled down, it crystallized. So these are crystals here on the right side.
And that's what we saw in that 6-foot pool that
Yes.
you were showing earlier.
Right, the crystals.
That
That's
is
right.
just eerie, especially the bone.
Yes.
That makes it, why would there be people's bones out there? Why would they be cremated? What's with the ash all around the
Yes,
area?
sir. It all adds up, doesn't it?
It does. It's just too obvious. Well, this has been fascinating, Kevin. Thank you very much. We've got way more to talk about here. We're going to talk about Kadesh Barnea. We're going to talk about the Red Sea crossing, Mount Sinai, the Ark of the Covenant, and our final episode is going to be Noah's Ark. So stay tuned to see the rest of the series. Thank you for supporting Shabbat Night Live, and we will see you next time with our guest, Kevin Fisher from Ark Discovery International.